welcome to this episode of Behind the Wrestler, the last episode of this season, and I couldn't think of anybody better to finish off this year's episode and this year's season than none other than the man who defeated Rugged Vic Craig in his own match, in a death match, which we will get onto, and became the new Jackson Shield champion, Mr. Lance, the Fabulance, as he likes to call himself. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking the time out and giving us insight of your story. And I'm very excited to ask you a whole bunch of questions right now.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Okay, so very first question. I'm sure you've heard it multiple times. Who, when, and where inspired you to become a professional wrestler, and how did you go about it?
I mean, my first early, and this is going to sound stupid as shit because everyone always says their first memories of wrestling is like The Rock and Austin and Hogan and shit like that.
Yeah.
The first memory is Al Snow and Steve Blackman and Head Cheese in WrestleMania 20 against TNA with Trish.
Oh, wow.
And it was the stupidest stuff I'd ever seen in my life. And I was like, I have to watch wrestling now forever. Like, this is amazing.
Nice.
And from there, watching guys like Triple H, who was always my all-time favorite, and even a lot of the smaller guys like Billy Kidman and Jeff Hardy and CM Punk and guys like that. Different body types, different sizes. I suppose as wrestling evolved and progressed, always made me think, well, I'm not a big guy. Maybe this is something I can do. And every year I'd always tell myself, I'm not a wrestler. I can never do that. Until one year I was like, well, give it a go. Like if you suck at it and you fail at it, then at least you tried. If you succeed, cool.
And how did you go about trying to find a wrestling school here in New Zealand, and what was your first day like?
I was always aware of IPW. Obviously, I guess they were the big brand, particularly when I was younger. It was just a bit of a Google search of who's around and where did I want to go. IPW always had their their trials to get trainers. Is that right? So, I wasn't particularly back then, was never a particularly athletic guy. So I was like, okay, well, that's not for me. I'm never going to get selected.
Right.
So I just had a Google search around, looked at different places, looked at different websites, and Maniacs United seemed like a place that was pretty chilled, pretty good family atmosphere, lots of good fun. And I thought, okay, well, let's just give it a go. And I remember the first day, pulling up at the training center, and all the guys knew that there was a new trainee coming, and all saying, JPE, she's a hard ass. She's lovely, but she takes wrestling real seriously. And I thought, okay, what have I got myself into? But after sucking at rolling for a couple of weeks, it was just like, man, I love this. Like, the guys are awesome. JP's takes wrestling seriously, but she's heaps of fun. I just loved it. Fell in love with it immediately.
And after having a couple of trainings under your belt and getting more and more used to moving your body that way and getting your body used to the impactful moves and stuff, when you made your official debut, when you found out, how did you prepare, how did you go about it, and what was the whole entire process of that?
Well, I guess the first official debut was a Battle Royal. Was the first ever Pure of Heart Senior Cup Battle Royal. And I mean, there's not that much you can do really to prepare for a Battle Royal. It's just get in the ring and hit people until you're the last man standing.
Right.
So all of the preparation was, can I take a couple of hits? Can I dish out a couple of hits? Tell my mates to come along, and it was completely crazy. But I guess the first one-on-one debut was a guy, Angus McKenzie, who doesn't wrestle anymore. And we spent, as soon as I found out I was doing the first one-on-one match, me and him spent months. And this is, I guess, a cautionary lesson on not preparing yourself too much. We spent months preparing for this match, and we'd sit there and like go through it together at training. And then one of us would be like, what would be really cool if we did this? And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do that. and we were given 5 minutes for the match. The match went almost 25 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
It went longer than the main event.
Oh, wow. Okay, a bit over time there.
A little bit. Like JP, you weren't too happy.
Yeah.
You know, we went over the main event on the time. It was just, but yeah, I mean, we'd never known about timing. It felt like 4 minutes. I got back and saying, oh damn it, we went short. I'm like, nah, man,
Nah,
not even close.
You went over.
Oh yeah. I think you were at that show actually.
I think so. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I think I was. I remember the yellings you guys got. But like, you know, getting a couple matches and stuff under your belt and you know, walking away from your first match and, you know, realizing you guys went overtime and realizing that time comes into like keeping to your times comes as like a very important factor of your matches and stuff. How did you prepare for your other matches going into it, realizing that, okay, I went over time on my debut match, but I do realize there is certain things that I need to do here?
I mean, I guess the biggest lesson from it was you can't stick 6 matches worth of spots into one match, and that's what we tried to do. And the biggest learning from that is you've got a beginning, middle, and end, not a beginning, 8 middles, 6 ends, and then a proper end.
Right.
And that was, I suppose, a big lesson on proper match structure of how are you going to start it, how are you going to finish it, and then let's just figure out the middle as we go. So it became a lot from. It turned from spending months preparing for this one match to spending maybe a couple of weeks emailing the opponent back and forth and coming up with a couple of ideas to eventually turning up on the day. Hey, mate, how you doing? These are a couple of ideas I've got. What do you got? And then spitballing it within a couple of hours. And I guess it was amazing how quick I went from months of preparation to hours of preparation. Yeah, and just over the course of maybe 6 to 8 months is just developing that. And I guess, as Paul Sayers, I think said it in a guest training he did soon after my debut, was just, you know, put one match worth of stuff into one match.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting all these advices and, you know, you have taken a part in a couple of seminars and a couple of guest trainings and stuff, and getting to pick everyone's brain and stuff. And also you've worked with, you know, likes of JP, worked with Graham Hughes and worked with, you know, Charlie Roberts and stuff. What are the experiences that you had by wrestling those different people, and what are the things that you took away from those individuals and the important things that you took away?
I guess, yeah. I mean, they're all vets in their own right, and every single one of them has taught me different things. You know, Sayers with a training was all about where are you getting your inspiration from, and then draw more from that inspiration. So I mean, the first things he was asking us was, who's your favorite wrestler? Who's always been your favorite wrestler? Who do you draw inspiration from? Why aren't you following that person? You know, and guys like Triple H were always my favorite, and thought, okay, well, I love the style of his wrestling. That's what I've grown up on. So let's just develop on that sort of style, which helped me pick a style. And JPE teaching me things like, you know, where to be in the ring, how to react to different situations, how to just react on the fly if you need to. Charlie Roberts, you know, really good at storytelling and different spots and saying, okay, well, this is how the story of the match is going to go. So let's everything feed into this story. You know, our first match was me trying to break his arm. So the whole thing was, okay, well, how does that spot feed back into what we're trying to do here? And God, I'm forgetting James Shaw as well. You know, I guess one of the biggest thing he was trying to teach us how to work on the fly. Because our match prep was, this is the finish. Let's have fun. I was like, okay, doing this on the fly. That was a big lesson. But I guess part of the big lesson that he inadvertently teach me is not being intimidated by these guys that I've looked up to. You know, James is a guy that one of my earliest memories of New Zealand wrestling was watching him versus, I can't even remember the other guy's name, like some 6 foot tall, muscled Australian. I'm pretty sure he's in NXT these days, actually. Can't remember the guy's name.
I think I know who you're talking
James,
about. I can't remember the name either.
James, I remember from that match though. So as soon as I got the chance of, you're wrestling James Shaw, and it's like, holy shit, like I saw this guy like 15 years ago, and I'm in the ring with him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So a big lesson there was they're just people. Like, just don't be intimidated by names.
Right.
Although I say that, and then if someone was to say you're going to wrestle Brock Lesnar tomorrow, I'd poo myself.
Oh yeah, fair. I think everybody would. And like, you know, getting more and more, you know, developing yourself and developing as a character and as a worker and as a wrestler, and like learning these things as you're going. What are the most, you know, what are some of the things that you found challenging, and like how did you cope with it? How did you overcome them? And you know, what were the struggles that you had to face with?
I guess the biggest, something I always tell other people, but never take it to my own heart, is you're always your own worst critic. So, you know, even if you think you absolutely stunk up a match, go talk to other people, because, you know, you're always going to sit there and pick apart, oh, my foot was in the wrong place for that, and this didn't make sense, and that was a load of crap. But as soon as, this spot didn't go well, which is always the biggest thing I'll tell myself is, I was supposed to do this and I did that.
Right.
But one of the biggest things that, you know, working around that, I guess, in my own anxiety and you know, desire to beat myself up over stuff, is always the fans don't know what the match was supposed to be. Right. As far as they're concerned, the match that happened was what it was supposed to be. And the biggest thing is always telling myself that is, you know, I did a super kick instead of a drop kick. Well, the fans saw a super kick, so they, as far as they're concerned, it was supposed to be a super kick.
Right.
And as long as you work through your mistakes and don't sit there and be like, oh shit, I'm lost, then, you know, what's the worst that can happen? Just keep moving, keep doing stuff, you know, keep on the offense. Yeah.
And you know, and this guy that you know, he's trained with you as well, and he's been alongside with you from, you know, day one as well. And he's kind of his worst own critic as well, just like everybody else. But getting the opportunity to work with Tyler Chase and becoming tag team partners, and then getting the opportunity to earn number one contender spots, and then getting the opportunity to eventually win the New Zealand Professional Tag Team Championships. How did that all come about? And when you guys won the championships, what was the feeling going through everything, and how did you guys prepare like throughout this whole thing?
I mean, one of the biggest challenges of that, I guess, is Tyler Chase lives out in Tauranga. So I get to see him once a month at shows, and maybe another time if we're doing fly runs and putting up signs and that sort of stuff. Right. So a lot of the communication between me and Tyler is always digital. You know, giving him a phone call, flicking him a message online, flicking him an email if he gets a chance, stuff like that. So when we found out that was happening, that we were going to be teaming up for the first time, you know, we were pretty chuffed. We'd been training together for a year and a half, 2 years at that point. So we knew what each other were like. We knew what each other like in the ring. Fairly familiar with each other, although we'd never actually been in the ring together. So yeah, we were pretty chuffed at that. And then it was a case of, okay, well, how do two people that I guess have similar personalities in the ring, but very different styles, how are we going to mesh? And it's always, well, Tyler's the athletic one. Tyler's the strong one. He's got the moves. I've always been the, you know, scrappier, brawling, submission-based sort of stuff. So how do we work those things together? And even looking at our finishing move, I hit a backstabber on someone, and Tyler hits a running stomp. I mean, that feeds into everything. I'm just pulling a guy down on my knees, and Tyler's doing a big jumping sort of stomp onto them. So it's everything is always, how can we maximize Tyler's athleticism, and I suppose maximizing what I can do as well, and you know, hiding each other's weaknesses. Not that Tyler has too many of those. But I mean, the feeling when we won the belt and walking backstage, it was unreal. It was amazing. So,
and like, you know, and having you guys, you know, defending that championship a couple of times now, and getting to work with different teams and different people. What was the challenges? What was the challenges that you found when going from chasing the championships to becoming champion, when everyone's chasing for you now and gunning for you guys to get those belts off you? You know, how do you guys prepare now as you guys are champion, and how do you guys prepare for different teams, because there's so many teams that want those belts and you have to prepare somehow. And you guys, had an elimination tag team match not so long ago, and versus different teams, or triple threat gets involved and stuff. So being in all of these different situations, how do you guys prepare, and what are the challenges you guys find?
I mean, part of the challenge is the remote nature of our relationship. Just seeing each other a couple of times, so we don't get to practice an awful lot of moves. It's often a case of chatting to each other beforehand quite a lot, and texting each other back and forth about, okay, well, when we went down to CP Dub to face Bad Bromance, a lot of that was just, okay, well, this is what these guys are obviously like. We saw some of their stuff, texted some ideas back and forth. But I mean, that's the biggest challenge as the champion, is you're not facing your home people all the time. You've got constantly way different people, and the spotlight's on you, so the pressure's on to perform every single time. And I guess that became the most real for us when CP Dub came knocking and said, "Hey, we want you guys to come down to Wellington and fight Bad Bromance," a team that both of us had seen remotely. I'd met Dan a couple of times, but we've never actually, traveled to another promotion by ourselves and actually done this. As a huge deal. And I guess that's when it all sets in of, damn it, this is real. This is what real wrestlers do. So yeah.
And like going, making, like as you said, making your guys' first trip alone to another promotion without your trainer being there, and getting that opportunity. How was all of that? The travel and all of that, coming all the way back, and the match, that whole entire process.
Oh, exhausting. It's a long drive.
It
I mean, it was a big honor for JPE to allow us to do that and travel by ourselves. Just me, Tyler, JT Hollow, although he was James Bombard at the time, and Sam Black and Vic Craig all crammed up in a car together, all driving down to Wellington. So it was a good bonding experience, a good chance for us to all have a good laugh and talk absolute bollocks for 8 hours. But I guess the pressure's on. You turn up, you're I don't want to say a guest of the promotion. You're the outside guy coming in, so everybody knows each other, everyone's mates with each other, and then there's, hey, who are these 5 guys from Auckland? Right. So you immediately got to be on your game. Shaking hands and kissing babies, and putting the best foot forward for everybody.
Right.
It's pretty tough.
And taking all of those experiences and stuff away, is there a specific team that you guys would like to face that you haven't faced before?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem with this year, is that Tyler and I have faced half a dozen teams. We haven't had a lot of chance to defend the belts and fight people, which has been disappointing, because there was, as you said, there's dozens of teams we would love to face. The Tanifar Atrocities, 2 guys at Maniacs United, they scare the hell out of absolutely everyone. But getting in the ring to tangle with 2 powerhouses like them would be, a hell of an experience. Manalanch over on IP Dub, those guys are, absolutely hilarious when I've seen them in the past, but God, that would be a hell of an experience as well, as fighting those 2. And even some groups that are around the place, Dapper Dynasty has always been pretty cool. And old James Burns' group as well, the Young Nats, always been entertained with those. And even if tangling with them on our side of the ring instead of the opposite side of the ring would be the best fun.
Nice. And I've heard through the grapevines, and you're not a big fan of weapon matches that much, especially death matches. I would say you're not a fan of. But getting into your first one-on-one, death match, they're scary to do. Walking away as the victor as well, and being crowned the new Jackson Shield champion, and also one half of the tag team champions, and holding them simultaneously at this current stage. You and Rugged Vic Craig have gone back and forth on social media, and at trainings, at shows, and everything. You guys bought, you guys have battled each other, and then this death match was meant to settle who was better and who was going to walk away. you walked away the victor. You became the champion. How did this saga and this story begin to go to this death match, and you know, all hell just breaks loose?
It began with me talking myself into a corner,
Right.
basically. Tyler and I had a chat about, wouldn't it be cool if both of us challenged for the individual belts?
Mhm.
Both took the belts and held every single title in Maniacs United. Like, how cool would that be? Fashion and Passion holds all the gold.
Mhm.
So we had a little plan called Chase for the Gold, where Tyler was going to challenge Evan Crow for the New Zealand Professional Wrestling Men's Championship, and I was going to challenge Vic Craig for the Jackson Shield. So we laid out a challenge, back in February of this year, and we were supposed to settle this back in July. And of course, Vic Craig comes out, like he does, spitting fire and wielding staple guns, yelling deathmatch at everybody. And no matter how many times I tried to back out of it and say, no, I'll fight you, but it ain't going to be a death match. No one was listening to me. Mm-hmm. So eventually it got signed on the dotted line. We were going to have a death match. And I guess the toughest part is obviously lockdown happens. The July event got cancelled. It got moved to November. And going from March to November, seeing different deathmatch clips, having Vic Craig, you see what you see on social media of him, saying, I'm going to effing kill you, right. And all this sort of stuff. What you don't see, I guess, is him private messaging me deathmatch clips and saying, this is you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that gets in your head for a while. I've had a hardcore match once before with Evan Crow. But I mean, we used pretty basic stuff out there. I've seen what Vic Craig is capable of the ring. And as soon as I realized what I talked myself into and was starting to be sent videos of and was seeing other people send me videos of, I was like, oh, there's only one way of doing this. You can either go in half-heartedly and get slaughtered, or just do what you're not comfortable with and just hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And me and Tyler made a plan. We had some weapons out there. When the adrenaline starts hitting, a lot of stuff that would normally terrify you becomes a lot less scary. Thumbtacks, I was the most worried about. 6,000 thumbtacks we had in that ring. But as soon as the adrenaline's flowing, I wouldn't say it's comfortable, but it's a lot less scary than you might anticipate the first time.
Oh.
Especially after the fourth time you've been dropped in them.
Oh, yeah, I was there. I was backstage. I watched the whole thing, and 6,000 thumbtacks. Oh, it's just all those light tubes and everything. I if my back was against the wall and I had no choice but to accept the death match, I would, but I wouldn't. I really, really would not. I would rather do a tables match or something than get myself involved in a death match.
Oh yeah, and even when I beat Charlie Roberts the first time, I went around calling myself the Fab Elite for 6 months,
right.
And riding on that high. Vic Craig calls himself the King of the Death Match. I've got no intention of calling myself the King of the Death Match and talking my way into another one of those.
Yeah.
He's a tough son of a bitch, and he can have that title.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll take the Jackson Shield. He can take King of the Death Match.
Okay, fair enough. I guess it's a sort of a fair trade-off.
Yeah.
And winning the Jackson Shield obviously puts a giant bullseye on your back now, where everyone's going to be gunning not just for the tag team championships, but also for your Jackson Shield. So, which means you have to, prepare for tag team matches and prepare for singles matches. So, how are you gonna prepare yourself to kind of go into two different matches? Maybe one, two matches in one night. If you have, a tag team defense and then you have to defend your Jackson Shield, what is your plan and what are your goals for this now?
I mean, the only plan I can do is just work on the cardio, work on the stamina, and just push myself further than I've ever been before. Because, when you've been in a tag match for 20 minutes, get backstage, and then you're straight back out for a Jackson Shield defense for another 20 minutes. And the adrenaline wears off between those two matches, it's going to get pretty damn exhausting. So cardio, and strength for the next, 6 months to whenever, for as long as we have those two titles. So the good thing is, Tyler's got my back. When we're in the ring as a tag team, you know, he brings the athleticism, he brings the power. I bring the loudness, I guess. And you know, he's got my back in that. And as soon as I have to have the singles match, I know he's got my back at ringside. So I've got a man watching myself. Vic Craig didn't have that.
That's true. He likes to go out all solo and all hell's blazing loose. Yeah. The goals that you set out for yourself when you first started, do you think you've achieved them? And what are your goals now and also your goals for 2021?
When I first started wrestling, my goal was to get in the ring, and I accomplished that. After that, it was to have a match or two that I could be really proud of. And I had a few matches that I'm pretty proud of. You know, me and Charlie Roberts, we lit it up. Me and JPE actually at the Hughes Academy show in Manic House Cruising Club. That was an absolute, you know, that was one of my favorite matches that I've ever done. And I guess me and Vic Craig as well, you know, guys who've trained together for donkey's years and managed to fight. As much as the match terrifies me, as well, something I'm really proud of. So, you know, I've got to where I need to be. And I guess the next goals are, how long can we stay at the top of the title? Sorry, how long can we stay at the top of the mountain? And how long can we work with other promotions and other groups and other wrestlers to actually just develop and learn and grow from there? You know, we've fought in CP Dub. There's a lot more promotions out in New Zealand that me and Tyler could have a lot of fun with.
And you know, you also mentioned getting the opportunity to wrestle your trainer. The scariest part for a student and for a trainee is to step into the ring with their trainer, or everything just goes in because you're about to go up against the person who taught you everything that you know up to this point. So how did you prepare for going up against Just Plain Evil, and what did you take away from that match?
I mean, the biggest preparation we can do is just keeping it simple. You know, and believing that what JP has taught me will translate in the ring. You know, what we do in training and what I've done in past matches is just believing that, you know, I'm going to pull through it. Because you're right, yeah, every tiny little mistake, your trainer's going to pick up on it. And if she's in the ring with you, she'll pick up on it a lot faster than if she's watching the video clip 2 weeks later.
Right.
So a lot of it's just keeping it simple. Going back to basics, I guess, and just making sure all of those basics are as polished as possible, and just, yeah, keeping it nice and tight.
And, you know, getting the people that you've wrestled so far, who would you like to step into the ring with that you haven't wrestled yet?
Ooh, that I've never faced before.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a big call. I've actually never fought Graham Hughes.
Okay.
Yeah. The guy's, you know, so experienced and so good, and I've seen him so many times in so many years. That would be an incredible challenge, getting in the ring with Graham Hughes. Ruben de Jong, he's twice my size and, you know, 1% body fat, but he would be an incredible person to get in that ring with, because while he terrifies the hell out of me when I see him, I bet he would be an absolute joy to wrestle. And other guys I've seen around the ring, you know, I saw Kai Solomon for the first time at Underground 7, and hilarious guy. Looks like he was amazing out in the ring. For, you know, the match was so good with James Shaw and Finn, St. Finn. So he would be another one. Just love to get in the ring with him and have a tangle.
And, you know, what's next for the Fabulous one?
For Fabulance, the next thing for me, we've got to defend the tag team titles coming up. And I guess I've got to put the Jackson Shield on the line at some point as well. So next for us is just stay at the top of the mountain. You're going to see a lot more of Fashion and Passion. We're at the top of the mountain. There's two of us right up there with each other. We've got each other's backs. We'll stay there for a long time.
Is there any advice that you would like to give to the Maniacs trainees?
Challenge a different champion.
Fair enough.
Don't go for me and Tyler. Go for a different champion. Fight someone else.
Thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to give us an inside story, man. I really do
anytime.
appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this time for this episode. I will catch everybody at 2021 for the first episode in January. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy holidays and a happy new year and Merry Christmas to everybody. And also to the Fabulous One as well and his family, because I know I'll probably see him in the ring sometime next year and probably kick his ass as well.
Oh, you wish.
Well,
I'll see you guys. Keep an eye out on the Facebook. Keep an eye out on the Twitter. Jan 23rd in Tauranga. That's the next time that I'm planning to be in the ring. Who knows what happens before then? But that's the next time I'm scheduled. So keep your eyes on Twitter and Facebook.
There you go. You want to keep an eye on his Twitter because he does have some funny things to say all the time.
I have my moments.